Good day, everyone. Good day, Sir Ison. My name is Joanna Catalan, and today I will discuss the language attitudes of English language teachers, ELTs, towards Philippine English as explored in the research by Erickson O. Alieto and Richard M. Rillo. So, this study examines the language attitudes of secondary level English language teachers toward Philippine English. Philippine English is a nativized variety of English that has developed distinct phonological, grammatical, and lexical features compared to general American English, while linguists and researchers have legitimized Philippine English as a variety of English. Its acceptance remains debated, especially among educators who serve as gatekeepers of language use in schools. Given the critical role of teachers in shaping student perceptions, so this study investigates their attitudes toward Philippine English and the factors that may influence this attitude. Here's the definition of important terms. We have language attitude, Philippine English, and the English language teachers. So, language attitude, it is a mental disposition toward a language. It is influencing how it is used, perceived, and accepted in various contexts. So, this means that people's thoughts and feelings about a language, whether positive or negative, it can shape how they use it in communication and how they judge others who speak it. So, in this study, it refers to how English teachers feel about Philippine English and whether they considered it a legitimate variety of English. Second one is Philippine English. It is a recognized variety of English spoken in the identity while maintaining intelligibility within the broader English speaking world. So, Philippine English has distinct features such as different pronunciation patterns, vocabulary, and grammatical structures. So, these differences reflect Filipino identity while still allowing for communications with English speakers worldwide. So, this study explores whether teachers see PE as a valid form of English. So the third one, we have the English language teachers, ELTs. These are educators responsible for teaching English at the secondary level in both public and private schools. So these teachers are key influencers in how language is taught and perceived in schools. So their attitudes toward Philippine English can encourage or discourage students from using and accepting it. So the objectives of the research, we have determined the language attitudes of English teachers toward PE. So the research seeks to find out whether teachers view in Philippine English positively, negatively, or neutrally, and whether they believe it should be taught and used in classrooms. Second one is identify whether gender, socioeconomic status, years of service, and educational attainment influence language attitudes. So this study aims to determine if demographic factors such as whether a teacher is a male or a female, rich or poor, and experienced or new. So it affects how they feel about Philippine English. The third one is examine possible correlation between language attitudes and demographic factors. This study explores whether factors like years of teaching experience or level of education have any connections with how teachers perceive Philippine English. Here are the important findings of this research. We have positive attitude towards Philippine English. So the study found that ELTs generally have a positive attitude toward Philippine English with an average rating of 3.93 on a 4-point scale. So this means that most teachers view Philippine English favorably and do not see it as incorrect or improper English. I score close to 4. It is indicates strong acceptance of Philippine English as a legitimate form of English. Second, this suggests that teachers increasingly recognize Philippine English as a legitimate English variety that can be used in both spoken and written communication. So, unlike past assumption that Philippine English should be avoided in formal settings, like teachers now see it as an acceptable variety in both speaking and writing. So, this means that Philippine English could be integrated into academic and professional communication. The third findings in positive attitudes towards Philippine English is this contrasts with earlier studies. uh, this had the status of Tupas 2016 and Martin on 2014 that indicated skepticism or rejection of a Philippine English among educators. So, older research suggested that teachers preferred standard American English, SAE, and saw Philippine English as a non-standard or incorrect. So, this study shows that views are shifting and more teachers are now embracing Philippine English as a part of English language education. The next important findings in this research is gender differences. There's no significant difference was found in language attitudes between male and female respondents. So this means that both male and female teachers have similar perceptions of Philippine English. This means that gender does not influence how teachers perceive Philippine English. So, teachers' attitudes towards Philippine English are based on their experiences and exposure rather than gender based preferences. So, unlike previous studies that suggested women favored more prestigious language varieties, so this research shows that both male and female teachers are equally open to accepting Philippine English. And some past studies suggested that women prefer standard English more than men. So, however, this study debunks that claim, showing that both gender now view Philippine English positively. Next is influence of socioeconomic status, years of service, and educational attainment. So, this factor showed meaningful but not conclusive in differences in language attitudes. Some variation exists in how teachers from different backgrounds perceive Philippine English. However, these differences are not statistically significant enough to make strong conclusions. Teachers from different income brackets, levels of experience, and educational backgrounds had slightly varying views on Philippine English. So, more experienced teachers may be more open to Philippine English due to longer exposure to linguistic diversity. Like, higher income teachers might have been educated in environments that favored standard American English, so it which could influence their views. However, these differences were not strong enough to be considered statistically significant, and meaning further research is needed. The next important findings is changing perceptions of Philippine English. So the study contradicts earlier findings that viewed Philippine English as a non-standard or undesirable form of English. Previous studies suggested that Philippine English was not considered as proper English by teachers. So, and this study shows that attitudes have shifted and Philippine English is now more accepted. Teachers now recognize Philippine English validity and support its use in academic writing and classroom instruction. More teachers acknowledge that PE can be used in formal writing rather than just informal speech. And also, this shift in perception signals that Philippine English is gaining wider acceptance within the education system. If teachers continue to embrace Philippine English, it may eventually be formally integrated into curricula and language policies. The last important findings of this research, we have correlation between language attitudes and demographic factors. There is no significant correlation was found between socioeconomic status and language attitude. This means that whether a teacher is from low income or high income background does not significantly affect their perception of Philippine English. Years of service and educational attainment showed meaningful correlations, suggesting that teachers with more experience or higher education levels may have more developed perspectives on Philippine English. So, teachers who have been teaching for many years may have been seen changes in how English is used and making them more open to Philippine English. Teachers with higher education may have encountered discussions of word Englishes, making them more accepting of linguistic diversity. This could mean that exposure to linguistic diversity over time, it helps teachers become more accepting of Philippine English. As teachers interact with more students and international perspectives, they may realize that English has many varieties, including Philippine English. In conclusion, the study confirms a positive shift in attitudes toward PE among secondary English teachers. More teachers view Philippine English positively compared to past research, while gender does not influence these attitudes. Socioeconomic status, years of service, and educational attainment show potential effects that require further exploration. So, some factors may influence attitudes toward Philippine English, but more research is needed to confirm their effects. So, these findings contribute to ongoing discussions on the acceptance of Philippine English as a legitimate English variety and its integration into educational curricula. So, this study supports the idea that Philippine English deserves recognition in schools. Here are the recommendations in this research. First, we have integration of Philippine English in teacher training programs. University and colleges offering teacher education programs should incorporate courses or modules discussing Philippine English as a legitimate variety of English. So future teachers should be taught about Philippine English during their training so they do not see if it is as incorrect. This will help future teachers become familiar with PE's grammatical, phonological, and lexical features and also reduce stigma against its use. By understanding Philippine English, teachers will be more confident in teaching it alongside standard English. The next recommendation is curriculum development. The Department of Education and other educational policymakers should consider formally recognizing Philippine English in English curricula. It is official recognition would allow PE to be included in lessons, books, and exams. As well, textbooks and teaching materials should include examples of PE usage, demonstrating its legitimacy and in academic and professional contexts. Also, learning materials should reflect how English is actually used in the Philippines. This change will normalize PE in schools and help students to embrace their linguistic identity. Students will no longer feel that using PE is wrong or that they must always imitate American. For further research, future studies should use larger and more diverse samples to ensure findings are generalizable, conduct longitudinal studies to track changes in teacher attitudes over time, investigate how Philippine English is perceived by students, parents, and employers in various professional fields. So, mostly or more research is needed to fully understand how PE is accepted in different sectors beyond schools. Another recommendations is workshops and seminars for ELTs. We have the government and academic institutions should organize professional development programs on language variation and linguistic diversities. Workshops should cover the history of legitimacy of Philippine English, how to effectively incorporate PE into classroom instruction, addressing linguistic discriminations in schools. So, teachers should receive proper training on how to balance teaching Philippine English and other varieties of English. So the last recommendations we have awareness campaigns on Philippine English. Media academic institutions and linguistic organizations should work together too. Dispel misconceptions that Philippine English is incorrect or inferior. Promote public discussions on the role of Philippine English in Philippine society. Highlight the successful professionals and academics who use PE in their fields. By promoting Philippine English in media, schools, and workplaces, people will see it as a legitimate form of English. That concludes my report. Thank you for your attention, and I appreciate your time listening to my discussion on the language attitudes of English language teachers toward Philippine English.